If you'd like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or follow us on any of our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Live on Four Legs Podcast and on Twitter at Live on Four Legs Pod.
You've got a great saying here. Yakosh Tao Banja. Yeah. Yakosh Tao Banja. I've heard it said, and I think I know what it means, and that's what I was trying to say when we wrote this one here. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Gentlemen. Mama Queen. Matt fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody, now welcome to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. And if you're listening in for the first time, the last time, or the 72nd time, you all know that this is a podcast about Pearl Jam. And what we do is every episode we pick a show in their live catalog and we go through and we dissect everything that's gone on in the show. The set list composition, some of the songs, and some of the important things that makes the set so good. So right here, right now, Randy Sobel here and John Farrar over there. And
hello.
We are staying safe and healthy as much as we can be. And yeah, this is, look, podcasts and how we do this podcast, you being over in Georgia and me being in Connecticut, social distancing is okay. Like if you're...
That's nothing new to us, man. We've been doing that for a long time.
No, it's actually, it's a great hobby to have around this time. If you're not podcasting right now, it's a perfect thing to, just shoot the shit with some of your friends and put it together. I recommend it, with everything that's going on. But look, we can't stress enough, like last week's episode, it was difficult, and there were times where I considered not releasing it at all because I didn't want to embarrass the show, or I don't know why I thought it would be embarrassing, but to have us be really excited about a tour and then announce that there would be no tour and have it happen a week after the fact, I wasn't really sure about it, but I feel like it was something that kind of needed to happen, and I thought it was it was human emotion. I thought it was relatable. I think it's you guys, you got kind of your immediate response to it. It would have been weirder, I think, to just gloss over it and be like, oh, we'll talk about this later. Right. It got real for a minute, and I think a lot of people related to it. I'm sure, yeah, and there's no worse time that news like that can drop than during.
Yeah, and we didn't even understand the scope of what was happening at that time. It was like,
sure.
Well, why would they do that? Like, why? Like, but now obviously we're a couple of weeks out and we understand like the scope of everything that's happening in the seriousness. So we're over those feelings now. We completely understand. We're completely on board with postponing the tour. Like, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you have to be ridiculous to think that you can be in public with more than 15 to 20 people at a time at this point. It's just...
But this was really the first domino.
It was the first domino.
Like,
you're right.
Even before a lot of the sports and everything, like Pearl Jam, give them credit. They were on the ball and checking things out and making sure that people were safe. And now everything else has followed suit, and just where there's just nothing going on.
It's more reasons to just love and appreciate the band, that they are looking out for all of our best interests, and and again, they're ahead of the curve when it comes to this stuff. So it's good to know. It's a refreshing sight. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to go a little bit back around the world, and we're going to do our second European country here. It's going to be Poland, and we had a little bit of a decision to make because there were two really, really good Poland shows that we had to choose from, and we ultimately chose Krakow from 2 years ago because they're going to be, well, potentially, if it's still happening, they're going to be playing Krakow over the summer. So I wanted to kind of get this in as a refresher, and if anybody was going to that Krakow show, they can listen to this and kind of get, a little bit of a nostalgia and get a little bit excited, and maybe, a little tease of what's to come later.
Yeah, and the other show was kind of a unique set list where it was kind of a sparser kind of a crowd, and we had just done one of those and we did Nagoya, so I feel like there would have been a lot of the same things to talk about. So, yeah, it's good to get kind of refreshers on this 2018 tour, because we will get a Gigaton tour at some point. So they'll make it back at some point. So it's good to kind of hit on these more recent ones and get a feel for what was going on when we last left them.
As much as we love the 94, the 98s, all of that, sometimes you have to hit on the most recent stuff to sort of get you prepared. So that's what we're going to end up doing. And, obviously we have Gigaton that's coming out in a couple of days. And if this was any normal week that we expected, this would have been a really big week and we would have had a lot of discussions and things. But, there was a leak that came out and a lot of people have the album now. Just one thing I want to bring up, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about the leak. We're not going to talk about, yes, we've heard it. And I think out of respect to you guys and out of respect to the band, we're not going to share any of our opinions until the album comes out. I feel like that's, a lot of people want to abide by that code, and I respect that. So, maybe the day that Gigaton comes out, we'll have something for you guys. But right now, we're going to chill a little bit. Most of you have the leak. If you have the leak by now, you know what's going on, and you've heard it, and you know everybody's reaction to it. But I think, what do you think, John? You think it's good to wait a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, we can keep it to ourselves for another week or so. I think
it won't even get dry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been so long already. We've waited since 2013. So, but I think when hopefully the vinyl will get here a day or two early, and maybe we'll do a little vinyl listening party when the time comes.
Would love to. Yeah, would love to do that and get everybody involved on social media as much as we can. We again, with no tour going on, we at this time would have been saying, head over to this place and grab one of our stickers, or check out this episode. And it's just kind of, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern right now. So a lot of the things that we'd be discussing early in the show, promoting things, we just don't have them right now, and we'll come up with ideas and we'll come up with things to do soon enough. But right now, all we really got is we're going to release stuff to Patreon. So if you're a patron and you're excited for
Randy,
more stuff,
what if I'm not a patron and I want to be? How do I go about doing that?
Well, there's a little website. It's actually called patreon.com. And we have our own section of patreon.com/liveon4legs. So if you go to patreon.com/liveon4legs, you'll see our content.
And that's the number 4.
That is the number 4. Yeah, very smart thinking. That's the number 4. And if you go there, you'll see that there's content, but it's blocked. And that's because it's all due to pledges and donations. So there's two different tiers that we have. We have the $1 tier, which is the bonus leg, and the $5 tier, which is the gig leg. Any tier will get you all of our exclusive episodes. The tier differential is for whether or not you want your episode to choose for our show, if you want it sooner rather than later, but everybody gets an episode to pick to come on our air. So really, we're just we're saving up, and now more time than ever, we're looking forward to saving up and doing more merch and doing more stickers and things like that for when the tour does come, because when it comes, we're going to be prepared and we're going to be ready. So if you want to contribute and you want to listen to more exclusive content, you love the show, just head on over to patreon.com/live-on-4legs. John, do we have anything good coming up like this week? You think a Bridge School episode?
I think we're gonna do that Bridge School 1994 night 2. That was a cool show, and we talked about that for a lot of the people on Patreon will get to hear that. But I did want to mention a couple of things too. I want to mention thanks to everyone who sent us pictures of them wearing the shirts and the hoodies and everything that they got. That was really great to see. So thanks everybody who bought those and then showed them off on social media. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really excited. Thank you very much for that.
And also, if you guys remember, we had a guest on the show last year when we did the Voodoo Fest, Johnny Firecloud. I want to mention his part 2 of his Pearl Jam Fan Life Anti-Quiet podcast is finally out. So we talked to him about it when part 1 came out, and it was really good and really detailed. And if you're in it like a lot of us are, then he's got a lot of good stories. So part 2 is out now, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't already.
Absolutely. I've yet to check it out, but that is on my coronavirus to-do list right now. That's part of my social distancing plan, is to go and listen to his show, so it should be part of yours too. But all right, let's get into the show a little bit here then. Krakow, Poland, what's going on at the time? They're going through the European tour, and this is kind of smack dab in the middle, and they're not promoting an album. They're not really. It's Europe, and I think it's their first full European tour since 2014, if I'm not mistaken. So, and Poland, I don't think they had hit since 2010. I could be wrong on that, but that right. Sounds like the right time. So this is probably...
And this was coming off the show in Rome and the show in Prague, and those are both kind of crazy set lists as well, like some really interesting stuff on those there. But Prague was only a 27 song set. Rome was 36. That was the longest one, because I think they had 4 or 5 days off after that show, but they had just one day off before this one. But you still get 30 songs, so that's pretty good for 2018.
I think a lot of what you can expect out of this Krakow show is something that you'd be able to expect on their next tour. It won't be a super show like Rome was, but it will have 30 very solid songs with a couple of, rarities thrown in there. Maybe not as rare as we hear in this show, but I think that you'll be able to get some on whenever they're going to be doing this. So one of the points I want to bring up is that Krakow is so unexpected as a city that you don't really think it would get this kind of set. And it's kind of, I mentioned it last week, and I mentioned it every time we do a Hartford show, but it kind of has that Hartford feel to it, where Hartford kind of sneaks up on you and they come up with a really good set list when it's sandwiched in between places like New York and Boston that have good sets, but they're more fan friendly, and I don't want to use the term generic, but it has, you're definitely hitting all the hits, and when you hit rare stuff, it feels like it's calculated rare stuff. But it feels like they're throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, seeing if it sticks, and not worrying about if there are necessarily consequences if they're, not comfortable playing a song or not. So
and we've talked about too, where they have a knack for taking those out of the way places and making them special. Like we talked about Moline and Greenville and things like that, and even, the same applies to Europe where, London shows are always going to be special if they're playing in, in some old amphitheater in Italy, or if they're playing in Berlin or something. Obviously those shows are going to be worthwhile, but you never know with this band, like which night they're going to just break out and go nuts.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between atmosphere and set list and how both of them intertwine, and sometimes you just get just the right mix of everything. And maybe it had maybe they just had a feel with this, because from the early onset this crowd was very good. And
you could tell, I think Ed's in a good mood right from the beginning. I think I noticed even in Of the Girl, he seems really loose and really like playing around with the crowd, and I thought it was probably really good energy in the building.
Yeah, I got the same feeling from that. I think throughout the show it seemed like if anything was going awry, he kind of bounced back from it and he had a laugh with it, and he drank his wine and he kind of it seemed like nothing. It seemed like they were just enjoying themselves, and sometimes that's really what you ask for with this, more than a set list, more than an atmosphere. You just ask for the band just kind of bouncing off what the crowd is doing and giving it back as much as they're giving them. So this is a really good example of that kind of show, and the way that we kick it off with Of the Girl here, kind of, you have your songs, and we mention all the time when we do an Oceans or we do a Long Road, maybe a Hard to Imagine opener, that it's
or
that
Wash
kind of
or something like that.
Wash, that first sign of like, okay, this is a little different. We're not getting a release. We're not getting a pendulum or something that we kind of expect every night. When you get something Of the Girl, not really played very often. I think it was only played like 2 or 3 times this tour. So you get that off the bat, you're knocking off a binaural song, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, here we go. What do you got for us? It's going to be, that's really the whole early part of the set. Very similar to what our Hartford show that we covered last week was, where they just kind of threw a lot of real random rare stuff at you very early on.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, to get a binaural song number 1, and then I think it's the only binaural song that gets played in the whole set. But
it is.
That would have been crazy. Yeah, immediately, the people in front, the people who know what's going on are immediately into it, like, oh, it's one of those, like you said, it's one of those unexpected things where it turns the show in a different way, and to get that right from the beginning is just going to throw everybody for a loop.
I think it might be a little bit of a throwback to that show that we kind of teased earlier, the Katowice show.
Could be.
That I believe they opened that show with Of the Girl, if I'm not mistaken. I know Sleight of Hand was really early on, but I thought Of the Girl was the opener in that.
It was the 2000 tour, so that would make sense.
Right, so it might have been just kind of, they were thinking about that moment, and they were saying, hey, it worked then, and people remember it, so
and he does today. Go back, he's got all those notebooks. He goes back and looks at all the previous shows they played in that country or in that city, and he'll go back and make references to stuff. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised at all.
Absolutely. And it gets you into just the two on here, just the double slow open with present tense here too. And present tense, like, you have to kind of package them together because the intensity coming out of the girl and into present tense, just it flows so beautifully. You have that second verse where they're building into the bridge, and they feel like they are at the top of their game already. In 2 songs in, you feel something very special coming from that stage.
Oh yeah, I got present tense second. I think it was I have to say, I think it was Columbia in 2016 that they played at number 2, and it was amazing. Like, give me this as an opener, second spot, third spot. Love it early in a set like this. This is an epic start to a show of the girl in her present tense.
100%. And I think that a lot of what this show is the crowd and their participation and going back and forth. And present tense is one of those songs. If you hear the crowd clear on a boot singing this, you know that this is a good show and this is people that know their shit.
You can spend your time alone, redigesting past regret. Or you can come to terms and realize you're the only one who cannot forgive yourself. Ooh, makes much sense to live in the present.
You have this really explosive 3-song just knock out of the gate right here, Last Exit Why Go Evolution, and it's just a really good stretch. They really don't give the crowd a second to breathe at all in between each song. They're just bam, back to back to back, and it gives you this. It gives you the vibe of they're ready to play and they're gamers on this one, and the crowd has to keep up with them in this, and you'll see even after Evolution, Stone starts right away with In Hiding, and Ed's like, no, man, we got to take a break for a second. I need to go sip some wine. So that reminded
me of your fantasy setlist draft where he would have been like, whoa, hold on, where you did not let up at all. But people can go back if they don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, when you do the Evolution in this early kind of fast set, you know that's something too, because that's one that's it's always a crowd moment, gets a lot of crowd participation. So when they throw that into this little fast set at the beginning, normally it might be a Hail Hail or an Animal or a Save You or something like that, Mind Your Manners, but to get Evolution this early means that they know the crowd is up for it, and they respond. They have some great stuff in Evolution.
Yeah, one of the cool things that I noticed out of Evolution, and this was all the crowd dictated this the whole way, that right when they go into the bridge and Stone's doing his solo, the crowd right away does the whoa, whoa, oh, whoa, whoa, oh. And Ed doesn't necessarily do that every single time they do Evolution.
Right.
More versions that are more recent, he will do the Meyer Me and Meyer My Home, but that was sort of a mid-2000s thing, like 2010 Backspacer era. He was doing that a real lot. So you can
a lot of those South American shows.
Yep.
They really was prominent. Yeah, those 2011 shows.
Yeah, you can tell Ed sort of in the middle of this, he's kind of changing course where he's saying, all right, you guys have it. You know what you're doing. I'll follow you in this. good stretch to kind of get your show kicked off. Why Go and Last Exit both excellent as well. And Ed mentioned something early in Why Go. Did you hear that line? He said something about Sweethearts.
No, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, all I heard was the word Sweethearts, but
okay.
It might not. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It's one of those shows where there's a lot of crowd participation, and he's
a lot of banter.
Yeah, and he's, we'll get to it in a few minutes, but someone's got a song written on their forehead.
Yep.
And there's little kids, and it's a whole thing, and the whole theme of the show was similar to a lot of the shows on this tour. They were really loose and playing around.
You notice the other banter comment that I noticed. He said somewhere in Evolution, he's like, "It's Jesus." Did you notice that?
No, I have to go back and listen. Yeah, we should play it.
It just goes to show that they're having fun. They're not taking themselves too seriously on this night, and they're definitely feeling it. So, like I said, Stone is quick to the punch within hiding, and Ed's kind of like, "Whoa, let's take a second."
Stone Gossett right there. Hey, we were, I just give a guy a chance to get a sip of wine, will you?
I noticed that his speaking voice seemed a little bit hoarse. Just a little bit. And we can't mention this time period without mentioning the London stuff.
Right.
So, I'm wondering how much of a lingering effect that had. But with the singing voice, it didn't seem like he lost a lot of edge during this.
Yeah, but it's still taking a toll. I mean,
he's back a little bit.
He's not a young man at this point. So,
right.
Yeah, he after those songs back to back, he needs to take a break and give it a few minutes before he pushes himself again. But yeah, it's 2018 tour. He's doing the best he can.
Sure. Yeah. That is In Hiding right here, and
In Hiding, the most appropriate Pearl Jam song for 2020.
I was going to say that. If you watch the Black Circle live stream, they played that, and he said the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of fun that they put that together. But really, I think we need to jump into Other Side, because we haven't covered it yet. Obviously, it's only been played 3 times.
Yeah.
And we have one definitive time that we're definitely going to end up covering it, and that's within our Bridge School series on Patreon. But this is your first real surprise out of left field on this show, that you're taking a song, it's only been played twice in the history of Pearl Jam, and they're playing it.
It's not the same without you walking here. Can't find my wheel. Your absence is what breathes this fear. Yeah, warm breath and all it steals. You can't know what it's like to be in here. All the dark horse feels befriending me. Playing ain't the same without you here. We've come to hate the golden rule.
Yeah, let's just casually bust this out in Poland.
Yeah, and this is the forehead
crazy
request. He makes the whole point about,
What was this? I thought green disease was the forehead request.
I thought it was talking about Other Side.
Yeah, because no, it was after Other Side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, the Other Side has kind of a rough start. Like, maybe they'd sound checked it once or twice, or maybe they didn't even get to sound check it at all. But they get through it pretty well, and it's one of those Riot Act B-sides that probably in hindsight should have found a home on that record somewhere, because it's a great song, but just didn't really fit in with the theme of that album at the time.
Yeah, it's a tough song to translate live. I feel like when you listen to it on Lost Dogs, it has this sort of warmth to it when they get into the chorus and kind of the acoustic part of the verses.
This is a Jeff song, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
It just has this very just kind of warm, sympathetic sort of vibe to it. And when they do it live, it kind of, in a way, unintentionally feels rushed, in a sense. And I don't know if that goes towards why they're a little hesitant to play it more often, because maybe they feel they can't recapture that magic, but just sort of a little food for thought on that.
Yeah, and I think it's, I'm the music people out there can correct me, but I think it's in a weird time signature as well. I think at least in the when it gets to that middle part, but yeah, I think it's a difficult song to pull off more than you would think, and it has kind of a weird intro, like it doesn't really start in a conventional way, so that makes
sort
sense
of only,
to, and
almost has to start it.
He is pushing his voice a little bit with like the, stand, like he kind of goes up to a higher register there, which is not easy for him to do anymore. So I can see why it hasn't shown up. It's just a song that, how many people have the Save You single with it on the B-side? But yeah, it's one of those ones that you had to be at one of these shows to catch it, and I love the meaning behind the song. I think the lyrics are wonderful, and I wish it would be played more.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that they could figure out if they did it more often, and
it feels like it would be in like an acoustic encore spot, maybe.
I think when they did it in Worcester, I think that's where it was. I don't know if it was done acoustically, but I think it was in that
where like let him sit down and like really focus on it, maybe. Yeah, something like that might be its spot for its best spot.
Sure.
To be in.
And I remember, if you look at the scratched off set list of Wrigley 2013, this was part of that. So I always go back to thinking about what that show could have been had there been no rain delay or anything like that, and certainly that would have been very interesting had this popped up. But again, third time ever, we're probably not going to talk about it too much, so really like the song, and who knows, 2020, if it happens, maybe they bust it out. We'll just have to see. It's worth 5 points in the fantasy league, so... Moving on, this is sort of a little bit of a Riot Act section here, because Other Side is not the album but the era, but we have two Riot Act songs back to back, and this is where we're getting at with the requests on the forehead. They have two women that are up in the front, and they have, I believe it's for green disease. That's why he's pointing it out. I'm not sure if it was a post tense thing with Other Side, and he was pointing it out because they played Other Side. But I believe he specifically says that green disease is a request, and when they get into it, it's sort of they're in the wrong key, and they figure it out. It takes a little bit for them to get into it and sort of figured the song as they go. It's the first time they played it in 2018 out of the two.
Yeah, and then Riot Act songs are not, there's been a couple, besides Save You and the next one that's coming up, and not a lot of them have been played very often, so I can see where, but yeah, again, it started out a little rough, but they got through it.
Yeah, these European shows had a lot of Riot Act stuff, or at least, comparatively to what Riot Act has been in the past, getting 4 at a show 15 years after the album came out is sort of unimaginable. But
yeah, hard to believe in a year and some change we're going to get up on the 20th anniversary of Riot Act.
That's kind of nuts. That's kind of nuts, and I'm sure that year, in 2023, I'm sure we'll be doing a lot of 2022. 2022, 2023 for the tour, at least 2023. But but we'll be doing. I'm sure we'll be talking about some anniversary stuff. I Am Mine comes after Green Disease, and I feel like for both of them, they're sort of figuring these songs out as they go along. They're not like the most pristine performances of each, but they work in the end, and I think it's just the shock value of this little Riot Act section of 3 songs, and then later on you will get the appearance of 2 more. So
yeah, I thought I Am Mine worked up to something really nice at the end. I thought I had a really nice solo part and bridge part. I thought they really got into a good groove at the end of it.
All right, we have this little section after the Riot Act stuff where it goes from Even Flow to Garden to Severed Hand, Not For You, and you get some energy coming back into the building with Even Flow. Garden, Ed is imploring the crowd to help him sing the chorus, and it's very melodical, soothing rhythm, and very on the mark Mike solo for it. But Severed Hand is the one that sort of sticks out to me, even though Not For You really is the one that sticks out, actually, I should say. But Severed Hand I did want to make mention because at this time, avocado songs are kind of the new Riot Act songs, where seeing an avocado song in a set is becoming a rare thing. And Severed Hand, that was such a common song when the album came out, is sort of dwindling in its appearances. So seeing it here and seeing it in the spot, because it's usually whenever it got played in that era, 5th, 4th song in, very, very early on. But I think it gave the set a little bit of a second wind, a second kickstart to finish off the second half.
Oh yeah, it's a much better live song than it is on the record. Like I've said many times, it's one of the top 1 or 2 from Avocado that translates well live. It always has a lot of energy, and I really like it live. But yeah, I thought Even Flow had a really nice Mike solo. It's not like a generic Even Flow solo. I thought he had a lot of cool stuff going on. And even Garden, like it was a little more melodic, but they do a little bit of that headbang outro, which like that's the closest Pearl Jam gets to Soundgarden, I think. Where like dun 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 dun.
Are you just saying that because the song is Garden?
Dun. I am. That did not occur to me until I thought about it later, but I'm sure it's occurred to Matt Cameron.
Yes.
But yeah, like that's if you're into the headbanging, then Garden is about as close as you get. But yeah, I mean, we're building up to Not For You, which is one of the highlights of the show for me. A little call and response, which you don't normally get.
Yes.
And a really nice Sleater-Kinney tag at the end. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think with that call and response, it's sort of Not For You, and I'm not saying it's definitely in the common spot that the song is usually in, but you're not getting a daughter, and you're not really getting a hit in this area.
Right.
You know, you go down to Given to Fly and a couple songs later, and maybe that's your one, but it's not. It doesn't have that call and response, so you need.
Yeah, there's no Animal. There's no like one of like a Go or something where. One of those early songs where everyone gets to like scream along. You had By Go and Evolution early, but yeah, Corduroy, exactly, something like that. So yeah, they kind of transpose that into Not For You here.
Yeah, I don't know if they've ever done it or how often they do something like this and Not For You. I
can't ever remember hearing another one. Yeah.
Maybe PJ20 had a version like that, just because I just remember them doing some back and forth with Julian Casablancas, but I haven't listened to that in a long time because there's no great recording of it. But yeah, this was really good, and of course Modern Girl tagged on the back end, so I think this is. And I like when
I like when the Modern Girl tag gets really quiet and really like when it kind of breaks from. I mean, it's obviously a tag on the end of the song, but I like when it kind of breaks and it gets really kind of sparse and quiet, and it kind of has a nice like kind of vibe to it at the end of the song. It almost reminds you of that original outro of the song, like the little arpeggiated thing that he did. But sure. I really like when Modern Girl gets like quiet and sparse instead of trying to be big.
I feel like you felt it in this version because you heard the crowd, and did you hear like the whistling coming from the crowd in this?
Yeah.
That to me, that goes to show like how balanced the mix is, and just how well the band and the crowd are playing off each other. This, in this mid, what people could say is almost a dead spot in the set is not feeling that right now.
Right.
So we have two back-to-back here that are very atmospheric and, soaring Pearl Jam kind of songs. And that's
Riot Act again.
And Given a Fly back-to-back here. It's just the delay effects are in full force. I feel like Stone is a driving force on this song as well. This is a good Stone night. I don't know if you noticed that. But there were
Garden
a lot
and I Am Mine and In Hiding.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. There were a lot of chants for Stone, and he was singing. They were doing Mankind in a lot of these European shows, so I think people were expecting or wondering if he would sing because
we did get a little chant problems later. We'll get to that too. The crowd wanted it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is a really good Stone night, and even I'll go back to the In Hiding thing. He was very excited.
I hate to interrupt. Every night is a good Stone night. The man's a goddamn genius.
But sometimes I think you can recognize it, and you're just like, you know what, Stone's onto something, and Stone's driving this. That's
I'll go with that, sure. But even when we talk about it's a great Ed night or a great Mike night or a great Jeff night, it's always a great Stone night. He's the best.
I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that. I think it's just. It's tough to say it's a good Stone night sometimes because he's just he's very consistent.
He's solid. Yeah, he's just holding it down over there on that rhythm guitar.
Here's your sad baseball reference. As this week would have been the start of the MLB season, so I have to get some baseball references in now to sort of make up for all that's going on. But he's that all-star that casually keeps making the all-star game. And people don't realize that he's, after, a couple years in the big leagues, he's a 10-time All-Star. And
he's the Freddie Freeman of the All-Star team.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. I'm sort of thinking like, maybe he's not. I was thinking like a Fred McGriff. But Fred McGriff's not a Hall of Famer, but Freddie Freeman's not a Hall of Famer yet. So
he will be.
I don't know. It's borderline at this moment. I give him a lot of credit. He's a Met killer, so I give him a lot of credit. Yeah. But you know how I am with Braves Met killers out there. There are many, and they are depressing. So, but yeah, these are good soaring songs. You are the Riot Act, like we were saying, and Given a Fly really can't be overlooked in a set like this. Not
great moment.
Right, you're not getting a ton of hits. So this is the one to get your crowd, and You Are is not really one that your crowd is singing along to. So you want another. This is really well placed to get that.
Yeah, this would be like the Jeremy spot or the Immortality spot or something.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So Mind Your Manners and Lightning Bolt to sort of be your precursor to the end of the set, and I think that this is a perfect way to include these songs into a 2020 set list where they don't feel like they're repeating stuff from the last couple years and they're just doing the same Lightning Bolt songs. If they do these at the end of the set, they'll feel fresh, they'll feel they'll feel important instead of just being like the third and fourth songs, how they've usually done the last 7 years that they've been touring. People don't want that anymore, but if you give it to them here, I think people would be really excited for them.
Yeah, and I thought I want to mention too the little intro he gives to Lightning Bolt where he says, this is for strong and powerful women, and it's one of those songs that he's got such a good perspective on writing from like a female point of view, and he really can tap into that, and without being like condescending and without being trite and everything. So I think Lightning Bolt definitely is like. With these two songs, probably the two best songs from Lightning Bolt that translate live, and I really hope they stick around. And not a surprise to see them back to back, even 5 years after the album came out in that original tour. But Lightning Bolt is I think is really going to turn into something special. It really has a great solo here too. I wouldn't mind at all seeing it in the spot.
The thing that made me realize that Lightning Bolt could be your penultimate set closer, the one, before Porch or before Rearview Mirror, is just that ending and how they keep going on. And it feels like a longer extended end than it is on the album, or even that it would be earlier in a set. It felt big. It felt powerful. It felt like it was going to be one of your final moments before getting into a Porch.
It almost has the same vibe as like a Corduroy, like it's the same structured kind of song where they can do the same things that they do with Lightning Bolt that they do with Corduroy.
Sure, and get a couple extra measures in, and absolutely, I follow that theory. And again, I think if you want to implement Lightning Bolt songs into the next set of shows and make them feel fresh and make them feel like you want them to continue playing these songs, because Mind Your Manners and Lightning Bolt have been played almost every single show since 2013. So I get if you've been going to a lot of shows in the last 7 years. I get if you're like, okay, let's move away from them for a little while. Let's find another spot for them. That's sort of what I'm getting at here, and that gets into Porch. Is a very good version of Porch. I don't have anything too crazy to say about Porch ending the set, but they were pretty much doing this every single night in 2018. This is, this is very predictable. But
and it's kind of a medium tempo. It's not played super fast. It's not an 8 or 9 minute version, but it was fine.
Yeah, you felt good energy from it, and it sets you up perfectly for.
I didn't get to see the video. Did he get? I don't think he went out in the crowd at this point, but this is something he was doing too, is trying to walk out in the crowd a little bit and do the hey. But didn't even check to see if there's a video of it, but I wouldn't be surprised, because that's always a cool moment as well for the crowd.
Oh yeah, where he gets to reach down and grab somebody's hand and give him the mic, definitely. I didn't go and seek it out either, but I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened at this show, where he was very much in sync with what the crowd was doing all night. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So that gets us into the encore, and Ed, of course, is making surfing references about how good the crowd is, and dedicates and jokes about his daughters in some fashion before the next song. Something about,
it was a little inappropriate.
Yeah,
for the younger crowd.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of what he said. I didn't go back to get the full ordeal about it, but it had something to do with, oh well, my daughter's here and she's 14, and let's leave it at that. Don't have to elaborate on that, but it gets into Just Breathe, and this kind of the campfire cool down of the encores is pretty good. It's Just Breathe, All or None, and Footsteps.
Yeah, you notice he does the little breath in the break in the song. He does like the the Just Breathe part. Like that's a nice little touch he started doing, I think. Maybe even 2014 or 2015, but
this is a good catch.
It makes another little appearance here, and then you get a little malfunction near the end. So it's almost like he he was busking at the end of the song.
Yeah,
just kind of singing out into the crowd without a microphone.
Yeah, so here's what happened. So the front of house mics, something malfunctioned and the console went down. So you'll hear at the end of the song where Ed gets really confused and they don't finish up tight. I'm thinking, like, what happened here? Did Ed just kind of lose his spot? Get a fun little moment where in between the two songs, Ed is again, you don't catch the final line of the song and it sounds like he's singing it off mic. So in between All or None and Just Breathe, Ed is taking his time while the crew figures out what to do.
There's a long break. Yeah, it's at least a 3 or 4 minutes in between the songs.
He's sharing a bottle of wine with the crowd. And then the best part about this is after he's done with the crowd, he goes back on stage and he finishes the line.
Hold me till I die. I'll meet you on the other side.
It's so appropriate. It's so well
you
done.
You got the crowd doing the do's from Black.
Yeah.
Then they're doing the Let Stone Sing. Let Stone Sing. So that they were doing all of the stuff to keep themselves occupied.
Yeah, they were doing their job. This was an excellent crowd all night. The crowd gets a 10 for me, and the band's feeding off of it, and especially when you have something like this happen, this can tend to derail you at times because maybe your crowd can get a little confused of what's going on and maybe they get a little uptight and restless. That does not happen here. So Ed keeps really good control, and that gets us into a song that's very, very rarely played in All or None. The 17 times it's been played, I think this was 16 out of 17, and it's our final Riot Act song of the night. We actually have covered the song more often than you think because we did the Seattle Night 2 about a month or two ago, and we've done this, I don't know, I want to say 5 or 4 of the 17 times it is played overall. So,
evidently I keep missing those because those keep being
then you take the floor, my friend. Whatever you have to say on it, it's your...
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed hearing it here. I think it fits perfectly in the spot. I mean, yeah, we've talked about how cool it would be to like end a show with it. This and Around the Bend, I think, get kind of overlooked as closers and don't get played as often as they should. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed hearing it here. I think it has a really nice melody and a really nice vocal, and I thought it definitely deserves a spot here. I thought it was really cool.
And to go with this song and its rarity and how rare it is, you got to go back to the last couple of years because even though it's been played 17 times since 2002, it has been played 5 times since 2014. So they are trying to implement this as much as they can. And I was fortunate enough to see it one of those times at Madison Square Garden, and it's still a very tough one to catch, but it feels like they're trying to implement it.
It got played at that fan club show, the Vic Theater show, and then it wasn't played again until 2013. So that was kind of, that they were still active in those years. Like they did a lot of shows in 2009, a lot of shows in 2010, a lot of shows in 2011. So yeah, it just disappeared for those 6 years. So that kind of made it, appeal more to the hardcore fans to be like, oh man, I want to start being one that people started chasing. And then, since 2013, it pops up once or twice a year, once or twice every tour. So hopefully it'll stick around.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that you'll see at an encore that it's kind of like that and Sleight of Hand are on the same level almost, where if you're not hearing one of those, then you're getting a more common encore, I suppose. So it flows.
Yeah, like a Fatal or something like that. they always will throw, in this tour, they would always throw a rare song in this little acoustic mini set.
Yeah, it's always the time that you're expecting for the most, because especially if you're a fan of Footsteps and you want to hear Footsteps every single show like I do, you're hoping for this part and you're hoping for Footsteps. That's every time we get to this moment, and I want something that's not as rare. I'm thinking that this one comes around, and this one had really good energy to it and really good flow to it. This whole section worked really well.
Definitely agree.
We get our 2 fast ones for Encore 1, and it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's Once and Whipping. They're very commonish songs. Whipping maybe a little bit more uncommon than Once, but the only thing that I really have on these is just how we transfer into Whipping, because there's a little bit of strumming that you you don't know what's about to come before you get that little hi-hat hit. Whipping is one of those, when you hear it immediately, you get like this rush of energy, this rush of excitement.
Yeah, that little palm muted intro guitar thing in between was weird, to then to just kick in the song like that. And then, of course, Ed forgets to sing, I think, in the part where he plays Whipping, because is he playing guitar and Whipping at this point, probably?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so he forgets to sing, which is fine.
Yeah.
But, Once into Whipping is not like a combo that you think of very often, but yeah, I thought it worked well. Once was well played. It's not one of my favorites off of 10, but yeah, it worked out fine. It's a good moment for the crowd again to get them back up after that little acoustic set.
Yeah, it's glue, and I think the next song is really what the crowd is anticipating and hoping for in this kind of set list. And you have a little wasted reprise under Ed, who is talking and speaking.
Well, Ed gets political.
He does.
Yeah, he gets political for a minute,
and he talks about situation. He talks about protest rights in Poland and how they're trying to limit them. And at one point, I read there was a pride flag in the crowd, and he actually picked up the pride flag and waved it for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So he's doing, this is political Ed, and say what you want about political Ed, but political Ed is part of the history of the band, and it's good that we have all of this stuff, and it's good, like he says all this time, it's good to have discussion, it's good to have conversation. So it's also important that whether or not in any country, that you get freedoms of speech, freedom of protest, and as long as it's peaceful. That's what he's discussing in this, and I think it's an important discussion. So, but that takes you into Better Man, and I have to mention this because, John, you kind of made fun of me for this, and I said that I had a reason why I picked Wasted Reprise on my fantasy team, and you were like, "Oh, why would you pick Wasted Reprise? That's a waste of a pick." And I said, "Well, because I picked Better Man, and I know that they play it before Better Man more often than not. So, what do you think now?"
I don't know that it's more often than not, but I think you were humbled a little bit by how little it had been played. I think you thought it was a little more than it was.
No, Dave had the wrong stat on it. It was it's actually way more than David said. It's been played before Life Wasted 37 times and before Better Man 28 times. And then everything else after that is 7 or less.
Yeah.
So look, I stand by my pick, and I'm very happy with it. And the only thing I'm not happy about,
we'll see. We'll just have to wait a little longer to find out.
Is not knowing exactly. That's the only thing I'm not happy about. But we get Better Man, and of course, this is the time where the crowd gets to shine in that first chorus part where Ed just lets him rip into it. And this was a little bit of a different tag here. What'd you think of the lyrics? It sounded like I don't think those are other lyrics of Save It for Later. It sounded like he was improvising.
Yeah, I think he does this occasionally where he'll take the basic structure and just improv a little bit off of it. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I like it's just a sign that he was, again, one of those nights when the band's in a good mood and they're playing around and he feels like he can take the liberty to make it a little personal and give the crowd a little something special.
Baby, I'm not like the other guy. Stick with me, baby. I look in my eyes. Stick with me, baby. I will fight for you. Stick with me, baby. I'll run away with you. I'll run, and I 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 run. Let's run away. Let's run away. Let's run away. Let's run away.
Ends your Encore 1 set and gets you into the second, and they start off that by turning around and facing the backside of the crowd and tells everybody that the crowd just became backup singers, which they've pretty much been backup singers all night. I don't know what he's talking about.
Backup singers? Oh, he's got the jokes.
He's the king of the dad jokes, but they play Elderly Woman to the back of the crowd, which it changes some lyrics in this. And, in that first verse, he says, "Thank you all for taking me," which, I think is another sign, like we were saying before, of him, being able to change lyrics and just kind of banter during songs is a sign that he's having fun and he's very loose. So
yeah, and also he'll do this occasionally when they're playing in kind of an out of the way area.
Yeah,
and like this is Eastern Europe, like it's not somewhere they go every year.
Right.
So yeah, he'll when he's in a cool, like I'm sure it was a great venue, like probably really old and really probably had great views and everything. So I'm sure they walked around the city and got a feel for how old the city is and feel for all the history. So yeah, I'm sure he'll throw that in occasionally.
One of the things
when they're in a unique spot.
At some point in the set, one of the things they said about the city, which I found to be interesting because I know nothing about most of Poland, even though I think most of my family descends from Poland, is that Krakow is kind of like the intellectual community of the country. Did you catch when he was talking about that?
Yeah, he talks about that. It's
kind of progressive.
Warsaw might be the capital, but
right.
This is really the capital.
Right, yeah. Right. So that's it. That's kind of cool. That's just a little bit of factoid that I never would have picked up on.
Yeah, it's got a lot of history. Going back to World War II and even beyond that. Like it's a really that whole Eastern European area is like very, very old. Like
yeah.
Stuff that's been around, we don't even, you can't even imagine, if you haven't been there. But yeah, I'm sure it's one of those things where like being in this band has given them a chance to go to places that they never would have gone. We talked about it when they went to Singapore and Taiwan. We did all those shows where it's kind of a once in a lifetime thing, and they've been lucky to do it 2 or 3 times at this point.
Yeah, I think in total they've played Poland 7 times. So, but again, they haven't been to Krakow, so it seems like a completely different atmosphere than what they would be getting in Katowice or Warsaw or any of the other places. So, yeah, and that could be one of the reasons why they plan on going back, and good call by them. You get more in the set list, so sort of coming from Elderly Woman until the end is Comfortably Numb, and then your bread and butter-ish section, Alive, Fucking Up, and Yellow Ledbetter. Comfortably Numb is great. I think they're soaring the whole way through, and it sounds really good. But
Bleh.
yeah, you're not a Pink Floyd guy, so
yeah, it's not my thing.
Okay. Anything on the bread and butter to end it? I think.
Yeah, fucking up is a good choice for this, man. I think it gives it kind of a nice bookend with the way it started with Other Girl in present tense, where you're kind of like, whoa. And I think fucking up is that one where you're like, it doesn't get played a lot. It's one of those that, and it got played a lot back in like 98, 2000, but it's been pretty rare now in this last 10 years or so. So I think that was a nice touch to throw that in there.
Yeah, and I kind of like how we were able to hit on it again. We don't hit on this song a whole lot, but last week we kind of, in Encore 2 just said, you know what, let's kind of ride off and finish this up. And we didn't really get a chance to talk about fucking up, even though same thing, Can't Keep is an opener and a couple of those really rare songs in between. And you have in the bread and butter spot where you're supposed to get a Baba or Rockin' in the Free World, you get fucking up. So it adds on to everything, and it makes the set feel more like that, rare, uncommon feel to it, especially, when you don't get something really common at the end. It overall makes you feel like you got everything from front to back. The whole thing was a surprise.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I thought it was great. I think it's a chance, and for the people that know it, it's not the most popular Neil Young cover that they do, but it's a chance for the people that know it's a cool moment to say, that why do I, it's a great moment for the crowd to one last time to kind of throw them for a loop.
What's cool here is that he points out a kid during the song, and they kind of break in between this and Ledbetter, and which doesn't really happen when they transfer from the two songs. Maybe they'll introduce the band or something like that, but they don't take breaks like this and kind of point somebody out in the crowd. But Ed sort of has a connection with a kid in the crowd that's wearing a Soundgarden shirt. And he's saying to this kid, he's going back and forth. He says something like, either you're a weird-looking adult or you're the coolest kid I've ever seen. And I just thought that was cool. And then Stone and Matt start playing Super Unknown, which is just, fun little snippet of that. And again, I think that goes back to when we mentioned Soundgarden earlier. So we said it would show up again, and it does. And at some point in Ledbetter, the kid was able to get Stone's guitar. I don't know if he was playing it or not, but Stone just gave him his guitar, and he got on stage or something like that. I didn't go seeking out the video, but apparently the kid got to have a moment on stage, which
fitting into a Stone-centric show.
Yep, 100%. So we're at the finish here. We've made it past the finish line of Krakow, and now we get to decide our top three.
Yeah, this is not easy, because this doesn't have a Black, it doesn't have a Jeremy, it doesn't have a Daughter, where they would get a chance to have a big moment for the crowd. But I'll say, Not For You, with the kind of unique call and response thing, cool tag at the end. Never get tired of hearing Sleater-Kinney on there. My number 2, I'll say Other Side. Just being the third time ever played, really like that song. Anytime you get a Lost Dog like that showing up this early in a set, it's going to be special. And my number 1 is just the two songs at the beginning, the 1-2 punch of The Girl in present tense. I thought it was really nice, and it's not something you're going to get maybe ever again. So enjoy. I thought that was a great way to start.
All right, I guess I don't have to talk in this section, do I? Pretty much.
Yeah, the same 3.
Yeah, present tense. Yeah, present tense was one of my big moments from the show, but Other Side.
An honorable mention to Lightning Bolt and All or None, and
just Riot Act
Better
in general.
I thought those were great, but yeah, those 3 I think stood out to me. Yeah,
I think if we're picking overall, I really liked the just the section in the beginning of Last Exit Why Go and Evolution. I thought that was a really good kickoff to what the show was going to be. And even though those are three pretty common songs, it felt like you were getting something different when they were all together. You don't get them together that often. So that was a cool moment. But I really like this version of Not For You and how unique the call and response was, like you were saying. And Other Side, you can't not put that in top three when you're thinking of this show. That's just it's impossible. So how about rating it? Where does it stand?
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind that this was voted very highly on people's lists in the show of the decade.
I know.
It probably finished. It definitely finished top 20. It might have finished top 15. I'm not sure. It wasn't 10, but it was high.
I'm gonna give it.
People like the show.
This may seem low, but I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Okay.
I thought it was totally solid. Like, it was what it was, but I just thought it was missing some of those moments. Like, they're like Given to Fly is in a weird spot. And like I said, I loved parts of it. Comfortably Numb is kind of a pass for me. So I thought, I would have liked to have heard something else there. Maybe a Sonic Reducer or Leaving Here or something like that. But there's nothing wrong with it. It just didn't get into that upper echelon for me. But yeah, 7.5, perfectly solid. Nothing wrong with it. But just seemed a little missing something.
Okay. Here's my thing. So sometimes it's just sort of the mood that you're in when you listen to shows sometimes, and either they hit you in the right way or they don't necessarily hit you where you expected them to hit. And this, while all this stuff is going on with social distancing and kind of staying in the house for a long time, I have been feeling moody and not very happy, because none of us are very happy right now. It's a shit time.
We have to go back and put on that Nagoya show.
That would fit, but I wanted something to sort of lift my spirits, and this especially the first set in this really put me in a much better mood and made me feel like I was part of the day, and made me want to go and eat some lunch and want to actually go and do stuff. I haven't been to the gym in 2 weeks because I don't want to go to the gym and contract anything. Like, it sucks. Right now sucks. But this was a nice little distraction of everything that sucked, and I will give the nod to that and this show and how much I do appreciate the crowd coming through on such what I would think is a random country, random city for them. But, now it's kind of bring on Krakow. I want to see what they do in 2020. So for that, I think I'm going with an 8.5 to your 7.5.
Cool.
So
yeah, sure. Both. I'm not going to argue with you. There's nothing wrong with it.
Both very good grades. So, all right, that wraps up this episode. What are we doing next week? You have no idea, do you? Because we haven't. Discussed.
I have a hope.
Okay.
I can hope that we're gonna hit a very special show from the 90s, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, what country do you think? Do you think it's going to be another Around the World show, or?
I think we need to knock out another Around the World show, right?
I think we gotta, because we are in that time period where we got a lot of countries to get to, guys. We're going to try
because we can't leave the house, so we have to get out somehow.
Yep. So we go as far away from Georgia and Connecticut as possible. Last week, we stayed in Connecticut. We got to get the fuck out. So I'm thinking, how about Stockholm from 1992? What do you think?
Sounds good.
Stockholm, Sweden, 1992. We hit, one of the Nordic countries over there, and we'll do a couple of those. But this is a really unique set list. It's 20 songs at a time where they're blossoming into something special. And I haven't I haven't taken a listen to it yet.
Take a hard left turn going from 2018 back to 1992.
Oh, yeah, that's a good 26 years. So we should see. We'll see how the magic was back then, and I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do two, because there's another country that's up in that territory that we want to hit on, but the only time that they've ever been there was one stint opening up for Neil Young, and it's 9 songs long, and I wanted to see if we can find it. So I think for Patreon that week, what we'll do is we'll do a little doubleheader. We'll do Stockholm, and then we'll do, I believe it was Helsinki, Finland?
Right.
In 93. So one of those very early 93 shows where nothing from Versus had come out yet. It was shortly after Slim's, so you're getting stuff like, I think, Animal and Glorified G that were very, very early on, so we'll listen to that sort of stuff. So if you want to hear that episode, check in with us next week or now. You want to be a part of our Patreon. We're very close to our goal, by the way. We set up, when we started this whole thing, we set up $100 a month, and we are $10 away from hitting that. So if you want to be a part of that, we are also, one member away from hitting 40, which is fantastic. So, again, big things are happening, and the more people that join,
we should mention too, thanks to Brandon from the Better Band podcast.
Brandon joined,
joining Patreon. He helped us out and came on that episode. When I was sick, so thanks a lot, Brandon. I'm sure he probably just wanted to hear his own outtakes. So
that's what I was thinking too.
Stick around, but I definitely wanted to give him a shout out. So thanks, Brandon.
I really hope that you guys, the fans of the Better Band podcast that are listening, and I hope you guys are, because he does a very good job at what he's doing. I hope you guys appreciated the lengths I went to put together the Easter eggs in that episode, because I was very proud of those. I was very proud of combining the two shows and unifying.
Were there some hidden Simpsons references in there that I missed?
Oh, there was one. We did make one at one point. I don't know if it made an outtake or not, but yeah, there was one.
Okay.
I should have ended it. No, that was it. He ended the show by saying "Smell you later."
Okay.
That was it. So
right.
There you go.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, we love that show. So give them some love, and he's always looking for new guests. I think he's setting up the No Code and the Yield episodes now, so I think there's still a lot of good songs left. So if you want to hit him up, you can find him on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
He's part of the podcast family,
sure
just like the Brads and Jesse and Cade and Jamley Matters, and you're getting, if you listen to everything, you get a really complete picture of this band. So I recommend just listening to all of them. And that way you get the full picture.
And if you listen to us, you get a headache. I got dad jokes too, you guys.
Sometimes.
That's a good cue to end this. Thank you all for listening in, and
thanks everybody.
Yeah, keeping up with us the whole time. So this may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, I miss you already, and I miss you always. For Randy and John and Krakow 2018, we'll be back next week to go way back into the past to hit up Stockholm, Sweden of 1992. Until then, shall see you goodbye.
Solidarnosc.
grazie.